So we've talked about the directors and actors, and now we're going to talk about design. But before we do that, there's one other practitioner I really need to mention, and that's called a dramaturg. Dramaturg. Dramaturgy. A dramaturg is someone who is an expert in dramatic literature. In Europe, you wouldn't think of putting on a play without a dramaturg. In the US, you don't always have one. It depends on the play, it depends on the theater company's resources and the aesthetics of the theater company. I love working with a dramaturg as a director. So a dramaturg, there can be two different types of dramaturg. A literary dramaturg is often called a literary manager. This is a position with a theater company. It's like being an artistic director or something. It's a position that is not just working on a specific show. It's a position that's part of the business, part of the company. A literary manager is, like I say, they're experts in dramatic literature. So the literary manager will provide the artistic director input in selecting a season and just be the general person who knows everything about plays. The literary manager will also be in charge of educational outreach if the theater company does that. Usually, they might have a separate educational director, but that's for very large not-for-profit companies. But a lot of the times, the biggest job for a literary manager is someone who works in new play development. It's hard to get a brand new play produced because so much about selling a play to an audience is name recognition. We all want to go see A Christmas Carol again, or we want to see, that Arthur Miller play or the Tennessee Williams play or the tried and true musicals. But it's very important for the artistic development of the theater to have processes, methodology, systems in place that can foster the creation of new work. Actually, my dissertation topic was about I did 3 different case studies of 3 different types of new play development in the U.S. Getting new plays produced and committing energy towards developing new plays is a big deal in the American theater. Without these processes, we wouldn't have any new works. And even though the name recognition isn't there, oftentimes I have found that especially young audiences, but all audiences, really love new works that appeal to them. So they're hard to sell, so therefore it's hard to get produced as a playwright, writing new plays. A literary manager might manage the new play development office, or they may be the new play development office at a theater company, where they will commission works by playwrights. They will produce evenings of readings of new plays for an audience, all kind of different activities. It's an interesting topic when you look at how new plays get onto the stage in the American theater. So that's a literary dramaturg, or literary manager, more often referred to. A production dramaturg will work on a specific show. They will put together what's called a dramaturg's packet, which is that they will give to the actors, which is just a packet of information about the show that they are rehearsing. The dramaturg will have the packet ready on the first day of rehearsal and hand them out. It will contain things like the simplest thing it will contain is like references to words, archaic language, or whatever that people might not know. It's an aid in the actor's research. All actors should be doing their own research, but a good dramaturg's packet is worth its weight in gold. Dramaturg's packet will also contain information about prior productions of a play, information about the historical context of the play. If it's set in another time period, it will have general information about what it was like to live at that time. It will also have information about, if the play is based in fact somehow, It will have just basically research, historical information, artistic information about the content of the play, about the playwright possibly, and about the production itself. It can be very helpful. Dramaturg will, like look up certain words to make sure we know that we're pronouncing them correctly. If you're working with Shakespeare, the drama, or another, classic play that you can cut the text, the dramaturg might edit the text. Shakespeare's almost always cut when it's produced. They make a big deal out of it if it's not. The full text of Hamlet, which would take 4 hours. So dramaturg is someone who is an expert in literature, in dramatic literature, knows a lot about plays, reads a lot of new plays, and is there to help with the theater company and with the production. I want to throw something out here that didn't make its way out in the directing discussion when you talk about producing the process of selecting a play. When you produce a play, unless it's a classic, unless it does no longer have a copyright, and I can never remember if it's 80 years or 100 years where a play automatically loses its copyright. So if you are producing a play that's been written in the past, 50 to 80 to 100 years, you get it from a publisher. And the publisher, and you pay for royalties. Traditional royalties for a straight show, which means it's a non-musical and a non-classic play, might be somewhere around $75 per performance for an educational group, if you're producing it at a college. I'm not really sure what it is for professional. It's probably about double that. And so you're paying $75 per performance. This is for each performance that you're going to charge tickets. And a good chunk of that actually does go to the playwright. Samuel French is one of the biggest licensors of plays, and they're not taking a huge cut. A lot of them, it's not like in the movie industry where the people who write the words are basically just hired hands and they get paid pennies based, in contrast to what the other people are getting paid. But in the theater, the playwright is taken very seriously. So you pay this money and you sign a contract saying that you will not change one word of the text. You are not allowed to change any of the language, and you are not allowed to reallocate any of the lines, so you can't switch who says what. Now, there are stage directions in plays, those things written in italics where they say, like she walks over to the chair, a lavish, possibly, description of what the set looks like or whatever. You are not legally bound to stick to those, but you cannot change a word of the text. And a lot of the money that you're paying does go directly to the playwrights, so that's a good deal. Just an interesting side note there about how the way plays work. And the licensing of the play is interesting because you also have to agree to certain things like nobody's name on the poster or in the program will be larger than the playwright's name, that the playwright's name has to be at least 50% as large as the title of the play, that you have to have the playwright's name on all publicity materials and programs. So there's a lot involved. It's pretty interesting stuff. So at the risk of jumbling things together, let's start moving to design. And before we do, let's look at the different theater spaces. There are basically 4 types of configurations, performance configurations. To me, we're going to look at them, and the nuts and bolts are very specific. But to me, what is most interesting about these theater spaces is the aesthetic distance. The aesthetic distance can sort of have 2 connotations. First of all, it literally just means how far is the actor from the audience. And that's kind of the most important aspect to aesthetic distance. What are the needs of a play? Different plays need different aesthetic distance. A play, a big Broadway musical, needs a lot of distance. If this picture you're looking at here, it will be kind of weird if this person was doing, there's like a big kick line and they're singing and dancing right in front of these people. This theater, it looks kind of small, but it's actually kind of medium-sized theater in the terms of the overall picture of different theaters in the U.S. Smaller plays require a more intimate space. Some plays that work very well in a theater that seats, like 80 to 100 people would not work well at all in a theater that seats 500, much less one that seats 2,000. So aesthetic distance is not only the relationship, the distance between performer and audience member, but it's the needs of the play. What does your play require for its aesthetic distance? It's difficult. As you can see, even in this space, the people in the top row are about twice as far from the performer as the people in the front row. But it's still a major factor. It's important when you look at how you're presenting a play and what the needs for each unique play is going to be. Although I'm only at 11 minutes, I'm going to end this one here so that we can cover the different theater spaces in one lecture.